A civil asset forfeiture is when the government can literally come in and take your stuff if they suspect you for a crime. Now, this doesn't involve being charged or convicted of a crime, just if you're suspected of a crime. Now, this has been primarily used in the drug war. So let me give you an example. If the police think that you're dealing drugs out of your house, guess what? They can take your house. They can just take it. They can take anything in your house, your money, your car, anything. This is literal theft of private property. Now, President Obama, one of his good things that he did during his presidency is roll back the scope of that program, right? He rolled back the authority of the police to do civil asset forfeiture. And I give him a lot of credit for that. Now, that was the Obama administration. Here comes the Trump administration and Jeff Sessions. Now, one of the first things Jeff Sessions decides to do as Attorney General is, oh, I'm going to roll back that decision on civil asset forfeiture. I'm going to expand the program once again. Specifically, Sessions revived the Justice Department's Equitable Sharing Program. That sounds nice, doesn't it? Well, it's anything but nice. This allowed the federal and state, this allowed state and local police agencies to take assets, give them to the federal government, which would in turn give them some back. So it would give the local police back some of the value of the assets that they stole from people who have not been convicted, who are just suspected of crimes. Okay. Now, they use this, unsurprisingly, as a way to fund police departments. That actually gave them a perverse incentive to go and seize more assets from people who may or may not have been innocent and haven't done any crimes. So, now, again, aside from the obvious problem that it's literally stealing private property, it's also very, very difficult for people who are innocent, who haven't committed any crimes, to get their stuff back. Now, you'd have to go and you'd have to get a lawyer and you have to sue and you have to go to court to be able to try and prove to get your stuff back. Okay. Now, a lot of people can't really afford all those legal fees. So that's why this primarily impacts poor people and people of color. Okay. Now, I tell you all of that context so now that I can give you some hope. And I love doing this. The Intercept is now reporting that the House of Representatives on Tuesday had approved an amendment to the Make America Secure and Prosperous Appropriations Act that would roll back Jeff Sessions' expansion of civil asset forfeiture. Awesome. They passed this. Now, what makes this better is how bipartisan it actually was. Amendment number 126 was sponsored by a bipartisan group of 9 members, led by a Republican, who's actually more libertarian. Is from Michigan. His name is Justin Amash. Now, Justin Amash, bit of a mixed bag, but when it comes to things like civil liberties, he's actually done a lot of good work. So I give him a lot of credit on that. Now, he was joined by Democratic Representative Ro Khanna, progressive from California. He's a Justice Democrat. Washington State's Pramila Jayapal, also great progressive. And Hawaii's Tulsi Gabbard, another wonderful progressive. Now, the amendment was so popular, it passed with a voice vote. That's how you know, man, it had overwhelming support. And look, if that isn't a good sign, I don't know what is. More supporters include Representative Mark Sanford of South Carolina, Raul Labrador of Idaho, and Dana Rohrabacher, a Republican of California. You also had Democrat Earl Blumenauer of Oregon. Now, Amash, the prime mover of the amendment, again, why he gets a lot of credit, said this on the House floor. Quote, "Unfortunately, these restrictions were revoked in June of this year. My amendment would restore them by prohibiting use of funds to do adoptive forfeitures that were banned under the 2015 rules." Now, you also have Virginia Democratic Representative Don Beyer also voicing his support for Amash's amendment, saying, quote, "Civil asset forfeiture without limits presents one of the strongest threats to our civil property and constitutional rights." He also says it creates a perverse incentive to seek profits over justice. Would you look at that? Here come the libertarians, man. Now, earlier, Rand Paul unsuccessfully went after the war authorizations in the NDAA. But successfully, you had Amash, so it's 1 for 2, looking to reinstate the Obama-era protections on civil liberties when it comes to civil asset forfeiture. Wonderful. And both of those bills did have some bipartisan support because, look, it turns out that this is good policy. These programs are both vast overreaches of power by the federal government. See, I'm a progressive. I believe in smart government doesn't necessarily mean I believe in big government. Because the whole term big government is superfluous anyway. It can mean whatever you want it to mean. Now, I want, like I said, smart government, government that does the right thing. Now, for example, I want the government to provide services and protections. For example, rules against corporations screwing us and, access to healthcare, which I believe is a human right. Okay. What I don't want is government in your bedroom or stealing our stuff or telling us what we can put in our bodies. I'm not interested in that kind of big government, but there are a lot of conservatives out there who are very interested in that kind of big government. And I'm against that. And thankfully, at least in this case, Amash and Paul also agree with me on this. Now, which is good because even in the era of Trump, we can find some simple things to be able to agree on that, like, hey, the government should not be allowed to steal your shit. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.